So you want to make a mirror with all the bells and whistles like you see in most worlds. We're talking low quality, high quality, and transparent settings. Well, I've done all the heavy lifting, and it was heavier than I expected it to be, but it's not a problem. We're going to walk you through it in just a few minutes today. So if you're just looking for a mirror, we've already covered a simple way to have a mirror toggled to a interactable button that just turns it on and off. We're going to be taking that, polishing it, and turning it into what you would normally see in any popular world, which is a UI menu that toggles a bunch of different mirrors. So what we can do is we can go ahead and we'll just leave this for now, I suppose, but we do need to go ahead and, let's say, we'll create a new cube here. And this will serve as our pseudo wall, because generally mirrors are along some kind of wall, so it just kind of makes sense, but it is not required. You can skip this step if you want. So here is our wall. Now what we're going to do is we need several mirrors, different mirrors, so we're going to make 3 of them. What we're going to do is just go into our prefabs and grab a mirror and child it to this. As soon as I find the mirror. Here it is. Okay. So now we have one mirror, but we're going to go ahead and reset it so it lines up with our wall pretty much perfectly. Alright, step 1, easy. Now we need to basically make 2 copies using Control D. And we're going to name these. We're going to name these... I can type. There we go. Mirror low. Let's call this one mirror high. And transparent. Okay. Now we want all of these to be off by default. That's how we're going to do that. And we'll come back to the settings to actually make these low, high, and transparent here in a minute. For the most part, we are done besides that with the actual mirrors. What we need to do is make our UI, so to speak. And the easiest way to do that is actually, we're just going to duplicate our wall. Let's go ahead and remove these. We don't need more mirrors. And this part, again, is optional. You do not have to have a wall for this part. I think it just makes things easier, and you can always delete it later once you have everything in place. So this is going to be where our menu is that controls our mirrors. So let's go ahead and make a canvas. So what we need to do is right click on where we want our menu to go. We're going to add a UI and a canvas. Now it set it gigantic and not where we want it. So the first thing we need to do in our canvas is go to this render mode and change it to world space. This will actually unlock our rectangle transform. So now we can actually access this. Now at this point we need to slightly drag it out of inside the wall, which is kind of hard to see. That should be good. And again, we can get rid of this wall here in just a minute. There's one reason you may want a wall here, and that is because it provides background for our UI text, but we can actually get around that and don't need it by just adding another UI option called a panel. Now let's go back to our canvas for just a minute. We're not done here. We need to add a couple things. We have a canvas scaler, and we have a graphic raycaster. We also need to hit add component and add a VRC UI shape. And we also need to add a box collider. Now, for the most part, we are going to be done with our canvas. Our panel as well does not need any kind of setup. We are good to go with our panel. So what we need to do now is inside our panel, we need to add more UI options. So what we actually need is toggle. We want toggles. Now, if you get a prompt here, I accidentally closed it out. If you get a prompt here that says import TMP, you can go ahead and do that. That's fine. It's just fancier text, essentially. It has nothing to do with what we're working on today. Now we'll notice our canvas is way too big. So we're going to go back to our canvas, hit R to go into our scaling, and just scale it down to however big you would like it to be. In our case, we're going to line it up with our wall. And now that we can see it's not quite in the right place as far as position, we're going to go back to the move tool by hitting W and just drag it out. Now we can see we have this toggle on a UI, but it looks pretty blurry, so we're going to change that. So what we're going to do here, since I didn't accept the prompt when it popped up, we're going to actually go ahead and import our TMP essentials. Okay, so if we go under Window and Text Mesh Pro, or TMP, we're going to import TMP essential resources. And just go ahead and import those. Okay, now we're going to go back to our canvas, and we are going to change this dynamic pixels per unit up to 10. And you can see what that does. If our text is blurry, it makes it more crisp. Now we're going to go over to our toggle and we're going to size it by hitting the R key for scaling and put it wherever we would like. Again, you can design the layout of the menu however you'd like. That doesn't really affect anything. So we're going to need a couple toggles. We're going to need 4 of them. So our first toggle is going to be toggle mirror. Or it'll be turn mirror off, actually. Mirror, just call it mirror off. And we'll call it toggle. Indecisiveness here. Now let's go down to our label and make sure that corresponds to what it does. So this is just for our reference, and the label is what people will actually see. So we need to do that for all of these. This one's going to be toggle low. And drag this one down. Toggle high. Naming conventions here, let's keep it one word. And again, that's just for us, really. And toggle transparent. Oop. Make sure we move the whole object, not just the text. Okay, so now we're going to have to, by default, these are all checked. We don't want that. So we're going to turn under the toggle, we're going to turn is on to off for these. Okay, so at this point, we need to go back to our canvas again, because I keep forgetting things. And we need to make sure this default layer is under, or this layer is under default. That is very important. Sometimes it will be under something else, and that will cause you all kinds of errors. So we want to make sure the canvas is under default layer. At this point, we need to make our manager for how this is all going to work. This is essentially the brain of how it's going to work. So we go into our canvas and we can just add an empty object. We're going to call this mirror manager. It'd be helpful if I could spell right, whatever. Okay, now this is going to take our Udon behavior, which is, as you guessed it, our logic, and we're going to be using C#. A few years ago, I made a video pretty similar to this, and we did it in Udon Graph, but this time we're going to be handling everything in C#. So let's go ahead and make a new one. Create script. And it's called Mirror Manager. Let's go ahead and let that do its thing. Alright, now we need to open up this Mirror Manager script. So, as always, I've already done all the C# code, and this is by far going to be our most complicated and longest one yet. Alright, so let's go through it. I'm not going to explain everything because it's just make this into a 30-minute video for no reason, and most people don't really care. Here is the code if you're trying to copy it straight from the video. I have no problem with that. Do your thing. And if not, this will be a drag and drop asset available on my Patreon for sure, as this is probably the most used thing in all worlds. So basically, what this does, without explaining every line, is it makes sure only one mirror is active at a time, and we had to add this bottom code because basically we can't import methods that are mono behaviors, and if none of that makes sense, it's okay. But it works. That's the important thing. Okay, so now we need to assign all our variables to the matching names. So let's go ahead and do that. We have our mirrors first. We'll start with those. Mirror low, mirror high, and mirror transparent. Now we need our buttons, or toggles. So mirror low, or off. Messed that up. Put that in off. Low, high, and transparent. Now our mirror manager is officially set up. So now we'll go back to our toggle low. And what we need to do is go to our on value changed boolean under the toggle, the plus button. And what do we want to do? We want to toggle the mirror manager. And what we're going to do is target Udon behavior send custom event string. And what we're going to be targeting here, or the string we're targeting, is the exact name of our method here that calls itself internally. So we can call this, and then this calls this. So we can just copy paste that in. Let's make sure it's just this. And we're going to repeat this for each of these. Make sure you call the right thing each time. And the easiest way to do that is just to make sure you copy paste. That way you don't get a typo, because that would make it not work at all. So at this point, the functionality of our UI affecting turning on and off our mirrors should work. Let's go ahead before we move any further and make sure that is the case. Alright, so as we can see here, this UI menu should probably be higher up, so it's a little easier to get to. But before we test it, let's talk about what should happen. If we hit toggle low, it should uncheck toggle off, check toggle low, and activate our toggle low, or our mirror low. So if we can easily see the UI changes, and if we look over here, we'll see which mirror is being activated and which mirrors are not activated by the grayscale. So let's go ahead and close our menu and do our first test. As we can see, our mirror low, over here is now active while the other two are inactive, and it adjusted our UI to match this. So let's go ahead and hit toggle off. We can see the mirror deactivated, both, and the checkbox deactivated. And similarly, if we press high, it goes to high, and transparent to transparent. Everything logically is working. Now the only thing we have left to fix is, guess what? The mirrors are not actually low quality, high quality, and transparent. So let's dive into that, and that will be our final step. So on mirror low, we're going to go ahead and adjust a few things. We want to change this mirror resolution to either 256 or 512. It is totally up to you on which one. The lower the number, the better the performance. So just keep that in mind. I don't think there's any set standard for how this is done. We're just going to have to use our best guess for your world. Now, in addition to that, you might want to change your anti-aliasing. Again, the lower the number, the more efficient it is. If you happen to have any custom shaders or skyboxes, you might also want to remove those. We want to make sure these are both checked. Disable pixel lights and turn off mirror occlusion. Now, additionally, we could mess with this, which is basically our reflect layers. So let's say we don't want the background. Let's go ahead and do nothing, and then player local, and mirror reflection. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Alright, you can see here, this is pretty much what it would look like. Not too bad. Okay, so let's go ahead and exit and work on the rest of them. For the high quality VRC mirror, you can most likely leave it as is, unless you want to force the highest resolution. I think auto works best in this case. We can also turn up our anti-aliasing, and reflect layers should be everything. Maybe one day we'll learn how to make fancy ones using shaders, but in this video we'll keep it as is. Now for our VRC mirror transparent, this already exists as a pretty well-known open source object. So I went ahead and downloaded that. It is not made by me, it is made by this nice guy, a certain blue cat, who put it on GitHub. So what you need to do is go over to this guy's GitHub, or you can download my project folder and just download the zip. Inside the zip file, you can find these shaders. This is pretty much what we need. So just drag these into your project. Okay, I didn't really want to drag them there though. We're going to put them just in our asset folder. Now we need to go to our transparent mirror. And we're going to want to change our reflect layers to nothing, and then player local, and mirror reflection. Now for our shader, we're going to use this only mirror cutout. So we're going to drag the shader into the players only cutout. Or drag the players only mirror cutout into our custom shader for the mirror transparent. This is a mouthful. What else we want to do is go ahead and adjust our camera clear flags. We're going to change this to solid color. As for the mirror resolution and anti-aliasing, you can use your own best judgment here. I'm going to leave mine as default. So let's go ahead and try this out again. We should have all of our mirrors set up with a functioning UI that cycles through them correctly. Let's give it a shot. So we have low. Looks like low. We have high. And transparent. All working as intended. And that's it. 3 easy mirror setups you can drop into your VRChat world. Whether you're going for performance, high detail, or that clean, transparent look. If you want to skip the setup entirely, the full drag and drop mirror prefab, plus the entire Unity project folder, is available to patrons. Just plug it in and you're good to go. If this tutorial helped, consider liking and subscribing, or dropping a comment on what you thought of it. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to support future videos and get access to assets like this one, check out my Patreon. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.